Hey there, Improv Tipsters. Welcome back to Improv Tips, where I and some of the best improvisers in the world give you improv tips and advice to make you a better, more confident, and happier improviser wherever you are in your improv journey. I am, as always, your host, Paul Vaillancourt. Let's begin. Today, I have a really fantastic guest tipper for you, Neil Curran. All his bio information is down below. And when I say in the intro that I and some of the best improvisers in the world give you improv tips and advice, I mean around the world. Neil is from Ireland and is in fact one of the big shapers of the improv scene in Ireland. So I'm really thrilled to have him giving this tip today. I will say personally, I've met Neil a few times and found him to be an absolute delight. And one of those times, in fact, I was in Florida doing some improv stuff, as you would imagine, and I had the opportunity to see him do his show, Neil +1, where he pulls someone out of the audience, someone who doesn't know how to improvise, and then talks to them for a little bit, and then they do an improv show together. I thought this was amazing. What I really loved about it was his way of just making this person feel comfortable and supported and connecting with them. All the things we should be doing with other improvisers, he did with this person who didn't really know how to improvise and really made something super delightful out of it. It sort of like reminds me of this old Del Close quote that if we treat our partners like poets and artists and geniuses, then they will be, right? And this is what he did, and it was absolutely great. His tip today is about making authentic connections, just like he did in that show with this perfect stranger. And what I really like about it is that it pulls together a bunch of ideas in a really cool way. It pulls together maybe this idea, ding ding, about relationships, this video that I did, and also about emotions. Ding ding, here's one from Lindsey about that, and here's ding ding one from Dan O'Connor about that as well. He pulls together emotions and relationships and connections in this really great way. It makes it very usable for you as an improviser. So I think you're really going to like this tip. Without any further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy Neil Curran.
Thanks, Paul, and hi everyone. Today the tip I'm going to give you is on the topic of authentic connections and relationships. Now, we all hear the idea of needing to make authentic connections with characters on stage and with our co-performers, but what does that really mean? Well, in order for me to explain that, I'm going to have to cast your mind back to the late 80s, early 90s and to a TV show called Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap centered on a character called Sam, and in each episode, through ways of science fiction and magic, he would leap, quantum leap, into the body of a character or a person in place or any time. The gender, the background of this person was unknown to Sam until he looked in the mirror. And he embodied that person and spent the whole episode finding out why he was in that person's body, what was wrong in their life, and he went about fixing it. And the only help he had was through a hologram who would update him with all the exposition. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, the big thing about that show is that show is very much like improv. Sam would step into the shoes of a character every single episode, would find out everything about their life, and then commit to whatever was going on in an effort to try and fix it. Now, with the exception of the fixing bit, it's very much like improv. Sam didn't appear in the body of a character that he disliked or that's, was the complete opposite of him, a couch potato or whatever have you, and say, I don't really like this character, I'm going to hit the coast button here on this episode. No, Sam committed hard to that character, and that's something we need to do in improv. So first of all, we have to recognize that when we step into the shoes of the character, they will be characters that we like and they'll be characters that we dislike. And it doesn't matter whether we like them or not, we get the pleasure of enjoying that character on the way. But most importantly is when the scene ends or the show ends, those characters don't just puff out of existence, they continue in that world that they live in, that alternate universe. So we need to learn to respect the characters we create, even though we may only be with them for a few seconds or a few minutes in an improv show. So what does that mean about being authentic? Well, if nothing else in improv, the one thing we always have is we always know how we feel. Emotion is at the core of relationships. We can easily define relationships by brother and sister or husband and wife, but as soon as you stick an emotional element behind that title, suddenly it's a lot easier for the audience to conjure up images as to what that relationship might be. Angry sister, an upset brother, distraught husband, an angry wife, things like that, and they start to create this more vivid image for us. So again, what does that mean to us as performers? Well, if we have nothing else but the ability to emote, that should be our starting point. A lot of people in improv will often bring ideas to an improv scene. You know that old cliche that we use, don't bring a cathedral to an improv scene? Well, it's a bit like that. We focus sometimes on the ideas, the things, whereas we should actually focus on that emotional connection, how things make us feel. If we feel that we're playing a two-dimensional character, we're playing the villain. You know, villains don't always wear leather jackets and have beards and smoke cigarettes and listen to heavy metal. I'm sure there's plenty of villains out there that give flowers to their mothers on Mother's Day and will give birthday presents to an elderly lady who lives on the street. Just because they go around killing people doesn't mean they can't be nice. Good people do bad things, bad people do good things. So if we focus on the emotion as we are weathering and meandering through a scene, that can give us a starting point. Because if we can't put a word together, we can't put a sentence together, we can't put a label on something that's happening in a scene or why it's happening, we definitely know how we feel about it. And if you as the actor are feeling apprehensive, then great, you know how your character feels. Use that apprehension. It's far easier to use what you have on the surface if that's what you're really feeling as a performer, than have to push it aside, scramble, trying to pull an emotion that you think the audience or your co-performer wants. The next step with it is commit to that hard. If you're feeling anxious about it, well then be very anxious about it. If you're feeling happy about what's going on in the scene, be very happy about what's going on in the scene. Because of the social constructs that we operate in real life, we often play emotions in a very restrained way, certainly in our day-to-day lives. And you can always ask yourself after playing an emotion in the scene, were you at your max? Were you 10 out of 10 emotion-wise in that scene? Generally speaking, we'll find we can probably always go that little bit more. One more rep, as they say in the gym. So what does that mean then when we're performing with other people and they're bringing their characters to the scene? Well, remember, think about how you're feeling in the moment, and then think about how you're feeling about your character, and then how you're feeling about the other character in the scene. Don't worry about what's going on. The scene will happen around that, but it's the emotional connection that's going to draw you closer to that other character. That's what creates the tension, and that's what creates the engagement for the audience. So emotion trumps all else. No one will leave the improv show, wondering whether it would have been better if you had resolved whatever issue may have come up in the show or whether you didn't resolve, but people will remember and feel the emotional connection between the characters, because that's what makes it relatable for us. The added bonus on focusing on this approach with emotion and being authentic is that it means that not all of our scenes have to be funny. And when they're not funny, it means that we bring an element of drama to what we do. And sometimes being funny in improv can be the least interesting thing. There's a controversial statement, Neil, I know. Sometimes being funny can be the least interesting thing, because when we create drama, it creates talking points for the audience as well. But I guess that's for another improv tip. Well, I hope this was useful. I will hopefully see you all again in the future. Bye.
Hey friends, thanks for checking out the video. And if you want to hear a little bit more, check out one of these two quality videos. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and follow us on social media. All the links are in the description down below. And let me know what you would like to see an improv tip about. Thanks for watching.